In the world of cybersecurity, some incidents become more than just data breaches. They become turning points that reshape entire industries and force organizations around the world to rethink how they protect sensitive information. One of the most significant examples of this occurred during the holiday shopping season of 2013, when one of America's largest retailers became the victim of a sophisticated cyber attack that exposed the personal and financial information of millions of customers. At first glance, everything appeared normal. Stores were crowded with shoppers searching for holiday gifts. Cash registers were processing transactions at a rapid pace, and business was thriving. Behind the scenes, however, a group of cybercriminals had already infiltrated the company's network and were quietly carrying out one of the most damaging retail cyber attacks in history. What makes this breach particularly fascinating is that the attackers did not begin by targeting the retailer directly. Instead, they focused on a smaller organization connected to the company through a business relationship. This strategy has become increasingly common among cybercriminals because large organizations often have strong security defenses, while third-party vendors may have weaker protections. The attackers identified a heating, ventilation, and air conditioning contractor that provided services to the retail giant. Like many vendors, the contractor had access to certain company systems to perform business functions. The criminals launched a phishing campaign designed to trick employees into revealing information or downloading malicious software. Eventually, the attack succeeded. Once malware infected a computer within the contractor's environment, the attackers were able to steal login credentials that granted access to the retailer's vendor portal. These credentials became the key that opened the door to a much larger target. Using the stolen credentials, the attackers entered the retailer's network. At this stage, they did not immediately begin stealing customer information. Instead, they spent time exploring the environment, identifying valuable systems, and determining how they could move deeper into the network. This process, often referred to as reconnaissance, is a common phase in sophisticated cyber attacks. Attackers seek to understand the architecture of the network, locate sensitive assets, and identify potential weaknesses that can be exploited. As they navigate the environment, the attackers search for systems connected to payment processing operations. Their ultimate goal was to gain access to point-of-sale devices, the systems responsible for processing customer transactions at checkout counters across thousands of stores. Despite various security controls designed to separate different areas of the network, the attackers managed to move laterally from one system to another. This lateral movement allowed them to gradually approach the systems that contained the information they wanted most. After gaining access to the appropriate systems, the attackers deployed a specialized piece of malware known as Black POS. Unlike traditional malware designed to destroy files or disrupt operations, Black POS was engineered specifically to steal payment card data. Whenever a customer swiped a credit or debit card, the information would briefly appear in the memory of the point-of-sale system before being encrypted and transmitted for processing. Black POS continuously scanned memory, searching for patterns that matched payment card information. When it found relevant data, it quietly copied the information and stored it for later retrieval. The process was highly effective. Customers continued shopping without realizing anything unusual was happening. Employees continued working as normal. Meanwhile, every transaction represented another opportunity for valuable financial information to be captured by the attackers. To avoid detection, the criminals implemented an organized strategy for collecting and removing the stolen data. Instead of immediately transmitting information outside the network, they first gathered it on internal servers. This reduced the likelihood of triggering security alerts associated with unusual outbound traffic. Once sufficient data had been collected, it was transferred to external systems controlled by the attackers. Over a period of several weeks, millions of payment card records were extracted from a retailer's network. The scale of the compromise was staggering. Approximately 40 million payment card accounts were exposed. In addition to financial information, the attackers also obtained personal data belonging to more than 70 million customers. Names, addresses, phone numbers, and email addresses were among the information that became compromised. The total number of affected individuals exceeded 110 million people, making it one of the largest retail data breaches ever recorded. What makes the incident even more remarkable is that warning signs existed before the breach became public. Security technologies within the organization detected suspicious activity and generated alerts indicating that malware had been identified within the environment. In some cases, the alerts were severe enough to warrant immediate investigation. Yet despite these warnings, the attack continued. This aspect of the breach highlights an important reality in cybersecurity. Technology alone cannot prevent every incident. Security tools can generate alerts, identify threats, and provide valuable information, but organizations must also have effective processes and train personnel capable of responding quickly when those warnings appear. The attackers remain active long enough to achieve their objectives and extract enormous quantities of data before the full scope of the incident was understood. When news of the breach eventually became public in December 2013, the reaction was immediate. Customers across the country became concerned about the safety of their financial information. Banks and financial institutions began monitoring accounts for suspicious transactions and issued replacement payment cards to millions of affected customers. The breach quickly dominated headlines and became one of the most discussed cybersecurity incidents in the world. It served as a reminder that even large organizations with substantial resources could become victims of determined and well-organized cybercriminal groups. The financial consequences were severe. Investigations, legal settlements, regulatory actions, security improvements, and customer compensation ultimately cost hundreds of millions of dollars. The company faced significant reputational damage, and public trust was shaken. The incident also had leadership consequences. Executives faced intense scrutiny regarding the company's security practices and response procedures. Questions were raised about network segmentation, third-party access management, incident response capabilities, and organizational oversight. Beyond the direct impact on the company, the breach influenced the entire retail industry. Organizations began investing more heavily in cybersecurity programs, threat detection technologies, vendor risk management processes, and employee awareness training. The event accelerated discussions about payment security and contributed to broader adoption of technologies designed to reduce the risk of payment card fraud. Perhaps the most enduring lesson from the breach is that cybersecurity extends far beyond an organization's own walls. Every vendor, contractor, supplier, and partner can potentially become part of the attack surface. A security weakness in one organization can create a pathway into another, larger target. The attackers never needed to break through the strongest defenses directly. Instead, they found a weaker link and used it to achieve their objective. This strategy continues to be used by cybercriminals today, making supply chain and third-party risk management essential components of modern cybersecurity programs. More than a decade later, the Target breach remains a landmark case studied by security professionals, executives, risk managers, and students around the world. It demonstrates how phishing, credential theft, lateral movement, malware deployment, data exfiltration, and inadequate response procedures can combine to create a catastrophic outcome. It also serves as a reminder that cybersecurity is not merely a technical challenge. It is a business challenge, a leadership challenge, and ultimately a human challenge. Behind every compromised record is a real person whose information may be exposed, whose financial security may be threatened, and whose trust may be affected. The Target breach changed the conversation around cybersecurity forever. It revealed how interconnected modern organizations have become and how a single compromise could trigger consequences that spread far beyond the original point of entry. Even today, its lessons continue to influence how organizations defend themselves against evolving cyber threats in an increasingly connected world.